section. And as I mentioned let's go full slide. There we go. Welcome to the Playbook Method Nutrition section. As I mentioned in the overview, this is where many people start out making a bigger mistake and shooting themselves in the foot a little bit by eating less, exercising more. And what that does is immediately slows down your metabolism because you're asking your body to do more with less energy, and it goes into what we call starvation mode. It slows your metabolism and burns less calories for the same activity. So what we want to do is repair that metabolism. So a slow metabolism is often a perception or a pattern issue, not a broken system. So what is going to cause this slowed metabolism? Because we say this all the time, but what really is it? Your metabolism is the rate at which your body does all things, right? That's what the metabolism is. And so we typically associate it with losing weight. Like, I have a slow metabolism, can't lose weight. But if you have a slow metabolism, you can't do anything quickly. So if you're trying to gain muscle, you're getting into the gym, your metabolism is sluggish, it's going to take longer. And then with weight loss, anything that you're trying to do, your physiology in general will just be, it's on low battery mode is what that is, okay? So common causes here are chronic undereating, constantly asking your body to do more without enough fuel, low protein intake, loss of muscle mass will slow down your metabolism, low activity, poor sleep, and high stress. And the mindset trap is I need to eat less, and that leads to less energy, less movement, less progress. So we want to shift to fueling to function, not restricting to fix. So I'm going to say that again, fueling to function, not restricting to fix. So eating pattern matters. Now, I always say there's never, one way to do anything. However, many boxes are checked by small, frequent meals throughout the day. What this does is it helps maintain stable blood sugar levels. It's going to prevent extreme highs and crashes, gives you more consistent energy. It will reduce excess hunger and overeating later in the day. It supports digestion, nutrient absorption, and keeps your metabolism engaged and fueled throughout the day. So those are what we talked about in the previous slide. How do we keep the metabolism moving, right? We let it know what's happening. There will be constant fuel coming in. Feel free to burn through it. You can spend those calories as you see fit. You don't need to hold back, okay? When we have small, frequent meals and we stabilize those blood sugars, that excess hunger, when we go long stretches of time, they're managed because we took in a small amount of food. When we don't do that and we go long stretches, we're like, oh, I'm doing great. I don't even have, half my calories. And then the evening hits and, I call it like rip the door off the refrigerator kind of mode. You're over hungry. Your body is telling you you're not going to make it. We're going to lose weight. We got to dip into reserves, go get some food. And by the way, we don't feel like breaking down anything super healthy with a lot of fiber. So why don't you go get some pasta? Hey, the croissant over there looks good. Maybe the muffin. How about some ice cream? That's what your brain is telling you because it does not want to expend a lot of energy on the digestion process. So as that digestion process, if we're eating frequently throughout the day, the body is firing up to digest and it can absorb more of the nutrients as they pass by. So if you think of your digestive tract having these little hands that kind of reach out from the tube and try to grab the nutrients as they go by, the more frequently they go by, the more nutrient you are able to absorb and grasp. Okay, so a simple structure, aim to eat every 3 to 4 hours. I typically say 3 because carbohydrates in general take about an hour to break down, depending on what they're coming with. Proteins take longer, they take about 2 hours, and fats take about 3. So relative to the amount of fiber that you've taken in with your meal, your stomach should be empty around 3 hours. Okay, and then if we give it another small meal, we start the process over again. We want to be able to include proteins, carbs, and healthy fats at all meals. But hey, you know what? If you're eating an apple as a snack and there's not a lot of healthy fat in an apple, there's not much protein, that's okay. All right. So here we are thinking fueling consistently and again, not restricting or catching up. calories. So once we sort of get the pattern established, that's number one. And sometimes people find that to be the trickiest piece. Well, once you have that established, then you can start to think about your portion sizes and your calories. Okay, a simple starting point. These are all kind of broad stroke. Okay, so your body weight in pounds times 10, that's about your daily calories. So example, if you weigh 150 pounds, you can just say, I need about 1,500 calories for my baseline. Now, everybody gets so dialed in with all their wearables and this, that, and their metabolism and these kinds of things. Yes, this is, as I said, a broad stroke to give you a general idea. Okay, if you weigh 100 pounds, should you be taking in 1,000 calories? Probably not, but we can talk more about that on an individual basis. This is just in general. If your metabolism is sluggish from undereating, let's say you weigh 150 pounds and your baseline, that we would add to that based on your activity, right? So at your baseline, you minimally must take in 1,500 calories. If you've been taking in, 1,000 or 1,200 calories trying to lose weight, this is considered under eating for your weight, and your metabolism is slightly slowed down. Now, if you said, well, okay, Anne said I got to eat 1,500 calories, you will probably gain weight right away because your metabolism is sluggish and it's not ready to process all of that food. And then you're going to yell at me and say, hey, Anne, you told me to eat this. Now I'm gaining weight. What gives? So what you want to do here is start slightly below or at your current intake and then work yourself up to the 1,500 calories. Your body will start to relax. The physiology recognizes energy is coming in. This is cool. Gradually increase the calories. Focus again on consistency and quality. Your goal is to restore your energy, support your metabolism, and build sustainability. If you miss a meal or you do go for that croissant, all is not lost. We talk about that in mindset. It's just a croissant. It's just a snack. It's not a reason to throw in the towel. It's just, okay, that happened, moving on. Next up, I probably shouldn't have another croissant since I already had one. All right, macronutrients and food quality. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, once we understand our pattern, we understand our ballpark of how much should we be eating, focus on your protein. Your protein is important because, first of all, I told you it takes a little bit longer to digest, and it will keep you fuller longer, okay? So it will support all of your muscles. It will support your metabolism, your recovery, and your satiety. Satiety means how long you feel full, right? A slow digestion, it sits in your stomach longer, you feel satiated, okay? Sources of protein, it can be from animal or plant. Variety matters here. So sometimes, we talk about people who are vegan, vegetarian. Where do we get our proteins from? Plants, for the most part, totally possible. Challenging to eat high amounts of protein from plant-based, but not impossible. You just need to focus a little bit more. Animal proteins, people talk to me about raised cholesterol and animal proteins, what's better? A variety of both of these proteins are great to start out. It's all good, okay? We'll fine tune as we go. You want to go from broad stroke as you start your nutrition to then fine tuning. When you start with the fine tuning of any project that you're doing, that's not going to go well. You kind of have to have it take shape first, then put the details in. General goal is 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, okay? So again, that 150-pound person, that's about 68 kilograms. So that means you're eating, I always like to give a range, 65 to 70. When I talk about these numbers, it is really hard to measure absolute precise numbers unless we are creating your food in a lab in a vacuum pack and measuring what you eat. So it's fine. Don't get hung up on like 2 grams of protein. I need 3 more. It's fine. Get in the range. It's going to be okay. The next thing I like to talk about is vegetables. Very important. They are high in fiber, so that helps your digestion, keeps your gut in good health, and it provides all the phytonutrients that we need that can offset the oxidative stress from stress, from physical activity, and just in general your metabolism. So we need the phytonutrients there. Fiber will help support gut health and disease prevention. They're low calorie and high volume. They're crunchy and that equals satisfaction. A lot of times people say like, oh, I got to have my chips. I got to have the crunch factor. I'm like, hey, how about a green pepper? They're like, oh, right. Anyway, so if that's you, try some cruciferous vegetables for the crunch factor. We humans do like to chew. So that is actually part of the equation. Fruits also providing phytonutrients here. They provide our vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber. Yes, they do contain sugar, which is then broken down to glucose, the final unit, and that is what we use for energy. But what comes with it matters. So, for example, a pineapple is, high in sugar. It's a, naturally occurring sugar. We break it down to glucose. But what comes with it? Lots of vitamin C, fiber. There's an enzyme in there called bromelain, which is excellent for recovery. So this is a good choice. Versus a processed sugar, empty calories. Nothing's coming with it, and probably some additional chemicals that are harmful, cause inflammation in your body. So same glucose endpoint, but a very different nutrient package. So think about where they're coming. A lot of people get hung up on fructose. The fructose and the fiber, the way they metabolize as nature intended, is fine. When we're talking about high fructose corn syrup, not so much. Grains. So if you do include grains, I don't think that grains are absolutely necessary. You can get all of the stuff from grains in fruits and vegetables. It's fine in other foods. But hey, we have them and we eat them. If you do want to eat them, absolutely focused on a whole grain versus processed. When they process a grain, they pound it down. All of the stuff that can't make a nice smooth bread gets tossed to the side, and that's where all of the good stuff is. So we're left with a very, call it high glycemic index product. It spikes your blood sugar up. There's nothing in it. There's no protein, no fiber, right? And that's kind of the issue with those grains. So we focus on whole grains, so it will deliver some fiber, slow digestion, better glycemic control, okay? And those processed grains, they're going to spike blood sugar. They're going to make you hungry because your blood sugar will bottom out, and now you're hungry all over again. Okay, now food in general. Macro balance, here's an example. So 30% protein, 40% carbs, 30% fat. That's a typical standard kind of easy breakdown. There are certain, activities that might dictate that you have a different breakdown or allocation of these macronutrients. But for starting out, this is fantastic. So if we're looking at that 150-pound person who's taking in 1,500 calories, we haven't added any activities onto them yet. They should be taking in about 110 grams of protein, 150 grams of carbs, and 50 grams of fat, okay? The activity factor I keep talking about is, is this like a runner or is this somebody who's sedentary? Do they have a lot of lean mass already versus a lot of fat tissue? Okay, what are their goals? Are they performance based or are we just looking for health and baseline function? Okay. So you have questions about that, please reach out. But this is a good snapshot that'll get you going. And remember, if you hit 104 grams of protein, it's fine. Okay. Sample day that will get you close to those. For breakfast, eggs and avocado and berries. Your lunch might be grilled chicken with some quinoa and vegetables, a snack of Greek yogurt and fruit, and dinner, salmon, roasted vegetables, and potato. All right, so here I'm going to just talk a little bit about functional foods and supplements. Food is medicine, okay, which again, I always think is hilarious because we eat food to actually stay healthy and stay alive. And so it should be, that's medicine. It's like a catchphrase, but that's how it was intended very long ago. So food is medicine now is foods that provide added benefit beyond the calories, right? Again, what they were meant to do, but we're going to reintroduce that as food is medicine. So examples, berries, they offer us antioxidants, which is important because most everything that we do throughout the day is going to create some amount of oxidation in the body. We need to offset that, right? When we don't offset that, we wind up with chronic diseases, increased inflammation, cancers, heart disease. So we need to offset that. We can certainly do it by taking in antioxidative foods. Leafy greens, they offer us our micronutrients. We need all of these, iron, iron and trace minerals and selenium and copper. All of those good things help us build good hemoglobin. Turmeric, garlic, these are anti-inflammatory foods. Okay, growing up in an Italian household, the amount of garlic that went into food is ridiculous. We had it all the time, and I guess we needed to for all of the heated discussions we were all having. All right, and herbs and spices can enhance the flavor and your health. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're keeping a variety of herbs and spices going on in our foods. As far as supplements go, I always say that these are the sprinkle on the cake. They are not meant to replace, they fill gaps, they don't replace food. Sometimes if you're, you've just taken up running, or if you have, some kind of situation that leaves you unable to absorb the right amount of nutrient, or you're over time, maybe you've been overly restrictive and you don't have enough B vitamin, maybe you're a vegetarian and you don't get any B12, this is the time for supplementation. An individualized approach absolutely matters. Okay, here is a key example here. Vitamin D, especially in low sunlight regions, we typically are going to see a vitamin D supplementation across the board for anybody living in low sunlight regions. Okay, if you're curious about this, consider a supplement review appointment. You guys just sign right up and we'll review if you need it or not. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it is stored in the body, as opposed to water-soluble vitamins, which we pee out when we have enough. When that little jug of B6 is full, we can't store it, so we just pee it out. But A, D, E, and K, we store. So we do want to make sure that we're not over-supplementing our vitamin D. So it is recommended that you get a lab drawn if you're supplementing vitamin D. Very hard to be at the upper limit when you're not supplementing vitamin D. Most commonly, you will be low. All right, so start with habits over finite numbers. I said that, like just broad stroke it to start out. Identify your obstacles. If you're struggling to eat every 3 hours and you can't seem to pack a snack for on the road, we start there and just work on the habits. Create a few solutions. Try to practice them. See which ones work, see which ones don't. Work through the solutions. Okay, so that is your nutrition. I go through it quickly so I don't lose you and let you all snooze. So if you need to go back and revisit and take some notes, please do. I'll see you in our next pillar.